Surviving Reality contains explicit content full of snark and sarcasm that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Reality.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and this is Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup, Season 2, Episode 10, I'm Not a Monster.
Kind of an interesting affirmation for the day, I suppose. I'm not a monster. Sometimes you need to remind yourself. Say it out loud a couple of times.
Look in the mirror, make a declaration.
Direct eye
Make contact with yourself.
Yeah. I don't feel like it's a totally bad thing. Yeah, to just go ahead and remind yourself every once in a while. I am not a monster.
Working on our self-worth.
That's good.
Worthy up, as Mary Brown would have us do.
Right.
Gypsy and Ken are thrilled to welcome baby Aurora into the world. But her early arrival bolsters Ryan's hopes that perhaps he is the father.
2 weeks early, and that's enough to convince Ryan that the paternity test results can just be thrown out the window at this point.
They didn't even acknowledge that they already took a paternity test.
I think Gypsy has acknowledged that. I don't think Ryan has acknowledged that.
Well, it sounds like we're going to be treated to round 2 of watching them go to a strip mall paternity center. So we have that to look forward to.
It's Ryan's turn. Ryan's version.
But first, we left off with Gypsy in the hospital, and it seemed like baby Aurora was coming into the world. And then we open here, and she has arrived. Aurora Rayna, born December 28th.
Full name, Aurora Rayna Urker.
Well, not yet.
Oh, not yet. No,
Anderson.
Anderson on the birth certificate, but eventually an Urker.
Because Ryan did not come to the hospital.
Spoiler alert. I wouldn't have either.
Why are we spoiling that? Gypsy got online the other day and said, hey guys, so excited. Aurora's an Urker now.
So she spoiled it.
Yeah.
We didn't have to.
She didn't even wait for the episode to come out.
No, she just got so caught up in the TikTok feud that has been going back and forth between her and Ryan. Red for yes, blue for no.
Man, they're relentless. I'm really starting to feel convinced that it's because the finale of this show is coming up.
That must be it.
They want season 3.
They thought they were teetering on the edge. They thought they were losing some people here.
Is season 3 when you get, like, typically an increase in what you're being paid for being on a show like this?
I don't know if it works the same way with
like
documentary.
Scripted.
Yeah, I think it's scripted stuff. Definitely. There's a big bump for that. That's why a lot of Netflix shows get canceled after 2 seasons.
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would like to see this not return to their televisions. Although I'm here for every moment of it.
But they're also simultaneously the people who are most actively engaged with the content.
It's true.
So if it wasn't on, what would you be freaking out about?
What would you have to talk about? I guess whatever Gypsy volunteers online, which is quite a bit.
A significant amount of information that's available online. I'm just glad we didn't have to go through any grueling birthing footage. There wasn't any Maddie in the tub screaming at the top of her lungs.
I was waiting
stuff.
for it. I have been prepping my entire life watching Teen Mom. Unexpected. I didn't know I was pregnant, although that is reflecting on what happened, so there's not current footage. But if somebody could make, and I didn't know I was pregnant, and we actually got the birth in the moment, I would be its top viewer.
Like, oops, it's a toilet baby. That'd be the show.
As Uncle Baby Billy would say.
Uncle Baby Billy's, oops, I had a toilet baby.
Well, we've gone down a different path. We were starting to announce the baby, the details.
Baby. Yeah,
we're getting the stats up on the board here.
And it's the first annual, second annual Blanchard breakout that's happening. This is just becoming a family routine, a family tradition.
Or
December
as Ken
28th.
called it, Liberation Day.
28th, December 28th, Liberation Day.
Down to the exact day a year later from when Gypsy was released from prison. That is unbelievable timing. That baby was like, I can't stay here any longer. What if she doesn't get off parole? What if I got to go back? I'm not being born behind bars.
I got to rope Ryan in on this a little bit too. He was starting to believe that I was absolutely Ken's, and I got to dangle some more hope, some false hope in front of him here. She's in on it.
You think Ryan made the right decision not to come to the hospital?
100%. 3.5 hour drive each way to go sign a piece of paper that would benefit Gypsy and Ken. No, thank you. I'm good. I have been scheduled to work that day, I believe.
I'm confused about the paper because the impression I got was all it would do is allow the baby to have a different last name, but it wouldn't take Ryan off the birth certificate as the father.
Oh, I thought it would. It was him acknowledging
Maybe I
the
got
results. It was like, it would be a form that would be filed along with the results of the paternity test where he acknowledges this and then is removed from the running, I guess, because it's not him.
If
Definitely.
that's true, though, I would do the 3.5-hour drive to the hospital to avoid having to do this through an attorney later.
He doesn't want to. He needs to have all of the different reasons for contact and to remain in communication with Gypsy. So he doesn't want to eliminate that as a possibility.
I think it's a little bit more of that because now she's going to have to relentlessly text him to get him to agree to do whatever it is that has to come next. We thought that we crossed the paternity test off the list, but we're back at square one again.
But that's not the baby's fault.
Everyone really was so joyful and happy. I could understand why it might be awkward to be lurking in the hallways of the hospital while everyone else is celebrating the birth of this baby.
Well, maybe you don't need to be in the room with them. Like you could be.
You don't think they had to come to the actual room in the labor and delivery department to sign the paperwork?
I think
you think there's
would
an office for that?
Yeah, you need to be in the building probably, or like at the nurse's station that's just on that floor or something. But someplace where you're just doing administrative paperwork, but you're not going to be invited into the room.
I don't know if I would want him on the same floor. Like, this is why nurseries have such strict rules now. We don't want to code pink. Do you know what a code pink is?
Yeah, he's going to be grabbing the baby and making a break for it.
She got my last name. That's my baby.
Red for yes, blue for no, pink for baby Aurora.
I still can't believe she named this baby the same name as Christy's dog.
All right, not the same name, because Christy's dog is Aurora Grace, and Gypsy's baby is Aurora Raina.
I vote for Aurora Grace. I'm going to give Christy's naming skills 10 out of 10 compared to Gypsy's.
Aurora Grace Urker. At least there's a break.
So
in the
many
middle.
R's.
Yeah, there's a break in there because
Aurora Raina Urker.
Aurora Raina Urker is
that's rough.
Let that roll around in your mouth for a little bit. See how that feels.
They're in the hospital for a couple of days. Baby's healthy, even though she's early. So that's all good news.
Didn't have to go to the NICU. There was no extra care that was required for this. That steroid shot really did wonders. So, hey, we're good with that. Everybody's happy. Everybody's healthy.
So Ken's like, okay, we had the baby. We left the hospital. We're at home. Should we announce that the baby was born?
This seemed like something that Ken was excited for. This is news that is good news. I would like to share this information.
It's the first time that he is the one pushing to post something online.
He wants to post. He has it saved in the drafts. And Gypsy's like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. We need to enjoy our peace. This is the first time she's been against posting anything, ever.
I think there is an ulterior motive because people are instantly going to say the baby is not Ken's because the baby was born early. And she knows that.
Wouldn't it be more suspicious if you waited 2 weeks when it was closer to the due date and then people are finding out, oh, this kid's already been born since the end of December? That seems like you're trying to cover something up then.
I agree. I don't know that I would want to do that.
I think you need to announce it as soon as it happens because you have nothing to hide.
When the baby was born. So what does it matter? At some point, that information is going to be known. So if you wait 2 weeks and then people find out the baby was born on December 28th, it's the same criticism you're going to get if you posted it today.
And at least Ken would be excited about it. He wants to get the word out. He wants to get out in front of this.
He seems paranoid that somebody is going to release the news before they do, and then it won't be on their terms. And that kind of is a valid thing to be worried about because somebody did take a picture of him at the hospital installing the car seat.
And there's your problem right there. He should have worn a wig when they were leaving the hospital. And then they wouldn't have known and been able to confirm, is that Ken? I don't know. That's just somebody who's leaving with a baby. Maybe it's Ryan pulling a code pink.
Are they going to have to go the route of like Michael Jackson's Children where everybody just wears a mask that nobody knows what their face looks like? Should that be the approach for baby Aurora? Because we're also not seeing the baby's face because they're blurring it. They're censoring the baby.
My beautiful blanket. Yes.
That's also going to be something that people find suspicious. Why won't they let us see the baby's face?
That's what, when Ryan was zooming in, he was saying he was examining the facial features of this baby when he ultimately got photos of it. And I was like, it's hard to decipher the facial features if the face is blurred, but I guess they weren't blurring the face for the direct text messages to Ryan.
I can't say I disagree with the move. You got to make sure that that kid is protected from softwares that can detect facial features in case one day they ever commit a crime.
I like where your head's at.
Everyone's getting increasingly anxious. Gypsy's getting anxious, and Ken's getting tired of waiting. It's New Year's Eve now. It's been a full, 4 days? And he still doesn't have the green light to post. This is very unlike Gypsy.
Do you think she's just against it because Ken is so for it? Is that why she is turned off from this idea?
She's just being contrarian?
Yeah. Like, this seems like something, if it were up to Gypsy, it was like the same thing with the DNA results, the paternity test. As soon as she found out, she posted it immediately because that's what she felt like doing.
But that looked good for her. This isn't going to look good for her.
I don't think there's any way around it at this point. Because, yeah, like you said, it doesn't matter. I feel like it looks worse if you're delaying to post. That seems like you're covering up something. So that's more suspicious. I don't like it.
I get wanting to have a few days where it's just quiet right after you had a baby and you're experiencing a lot of emotions and want to bond with your child versus scrolling on TikTok and seeing all the horrible things people are saying about you. And we know Gypsy can't resist doing that.
Well, maybe put your phone in airplane mode for a couple hours then or something.
She needs to get one of those little lock boxes.
Yeah, like the ones that you have to input the time code and then you can't get to them. It's for the snacking purposes. Is the other reason.
Well, that's what we would use it in our home for.
Yes, particularly.
Many people do use it for electronic devices.
But tell me, I'd probably be able to bust into this thing.
She needs one of those bags.
At like the concerts when they...
Yeah, I don't even want to say the name of them because I'm afraid the podcast will get flagged or something.
There's a name for them?
Yeah, it's also a strategy some people use when they're going to commit a crime to ensure their phone cannot access cell phone towers.
Oh, okay. Faraday cage? What? Is that what you're talking about? That's a normal thing.
Well, thank you.
We're not providing instructions on how to build one.
What if Gypsy's listening?
Then she needs it more than we do.
They do end up deciding to post. I think it was on New Year's or something. Shortly after, they didn't make it a full 2 weeks. Just a couple of days.
Close enough.
And Ken gets to be the one who announces it. He posts the picture and welcomes baby Aurora into the world. And so starts the drama online. Someone who knew all of this information already and didn't have to wait to see it posted was Ryan Anderson, because Gypsy texted him and Rod called him the day the baby was born, letting him know what happened.
He kind of figured something was up. Rod doesn't usually call.
Was that a last-ditch effort to see, like, are you on your way? How close are you?
He didn't even answer.
Do you want to stop?
He didn't even pick up the phone.
Could you maybe swing by with some food on your way here?
Yeah, just hit the Buc-ee's real quick.
Is there a Buc-ee's in Louisiana?
So I think that
was because Raina is from, she brought it from Texas.
Yeah, the Buc-ee's get up. No, Ryan doesn't leave the apartment. We've established that. Can't be bothered.
He can't leave Pixie for that long.
And
it's a long day on her own.
Yeah,
the tiny
3.5
bladder.
hours. Oh my gosh. Each direction. Yeah, because it would be 7 hours in the car.
Plus, how long is that going to take at the hospital? Nothing is fast at a hospital.
No. I stand by Ryan's decision to go ahead and say no. No, thank you for this. Because it's not going to happen. But then he's able to put two and two together. If Rod's calling him, if Gypsy's texting him, the baby's here. It's happened.
And he's checking that calendar. And he's like,
Now he's doing some math.
You know what? Maybe it's not impossible that this baby is mine. So I did make the right decision by not coming up there.
You know what? The paternity test is 99.9999%. I might be in that 0.0001%.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying, because he didn't acknowledge that there already was a paternity test. He's acting like that information does not exist. All he has is the date of birth of the baby.
So you're telling me there's a chance? That's all I'm hearing from him at this point.
Ryan's going to stay in Lake Charles, and Gypsy and Ken head on home. I guess they're going to Ken's house. I was confused by how long they were able to stay at Ken's house, because typically Gypsy can only be there for a few days a week because of her parole, but kind of gave the impression that they were there for maybe 2 weeks together.
A couple of weeks. Because then he was back to work full time. So I don't know what the rules are with parole. And
do you get maternity leave on parole.
Right? Yeah. Is that something that you can make a request for?
Those are the nitty-gritty details that I'm here for.
Any way you cut it. Yeah. It seems like Gypsy was already starting to feel some of the isolation that comes with new motherhood, especially when Ken's back to work.
I just know the critics are out there and they're going to rip all this stuff apart. But this did seem like what many, many mothers experience when they have a newborn.
This is what's so wild to me, is that there's like a no-go category for criticism, especially online, is new mothers. But then Gypsy is circumventing all of those protections where everybody's like, no, she's fair game. You can go ahead and destroy her.
I don't know where you're looking online, but nobody is more critical of mothers than other mothers, at least from my observations.
Okay, no, but like when it comes to like new mom stuff, or like, I'm trying to think of what example I can provide for this. Of course, it has to go to Sister Wives. So with Maddie, when she started the podcast, and then it lasted for like 5 episodes, and then she stopped doing it, and everybody was like, she's a new mom. She's got all this stuff that she's doing, and she's given a pass at, oh, it's fine.
You can't criticize that she ended that so quickly.
She's doing what's best for her, and that's her decision, and it's what's best for her and her family, even though she left her friend hanging to dry with all the business side of this stuff that she was helping get off the ground, and then just completely abandoned it. No, that's fine because she's a new mom. So the passes that are given on a lot of different circumstances for new moms, that's what I'm talking about. No leniency is provided for Gypsy's circumstance that she's found herself in.
Well, she's brought this upon herself, as I'm sure what they would say.
Is that the loophole? She killed her mom, or was involved in the killing of her mom, so now she is out of the mom club?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a breach of contract, I suppose, on that social contract.
You kicked out. Nobody's here giving you advice.
You have no benefit, no claim to the riches that lay here with motherhood.
I will say it's sad to see her struggling because a lot of this is relatable, but the one thing that many people probably aren't able to relate to is having this moment of crisis after your baby is born about how you are going to explain to them that you've murdered their grandmother.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'd say that's a very unique circumstance that she is involved in, exploring and navigating new motherhood here.
I think it is understandable that it's bringing up a lot of different feelings for her, and that she's starting to experience what it's like to have a baby be dependent on you, and to have all these emotions and the bonding. And what she's taking from this is that what she experienced with her mother is even worse than she originally perceived it as, because now she understands what it is to love your child and doesn't feel like her mom was a protector to her, which was not the route I thought she was going with that when she was going to talk about what was coming up for her, but I guess it's understandable.
Honestly, that's a fair assessment that, most of the time there's a lot of people who are victims of abuse who then later on in life, when they have their own kids, and then they see immediately how horrible their childhood was in comparison, because they would never want to have their kid be in those circumstances that they found themselves in. I think it's just the way that she's even talking about it too, and trying to wrap her mind around this, because when they were driving away from the hospital, she had said to Ken at one point, isn't it weird how, like, looking forward, it's like we don't know what the next day will bring, basically? Like, everything is just a complete unknown, from this point on, basically. And it's like, isn't that every day though? Like, do you?
Yeah, but you were only responsible for yourself in the unknown.
I'm barely responsible for myself when it comes to me. So that's what I'm saying is like.
That's what Gypsy's going through, because this is the first responsibility she's had in her entire life. And she is finally realizing that.
She should have had Pixie for a little bit longer. She should have stuck around and just got to know what that feels like, to have that responsibility and to see that through a little bit longer than what she did.
I mean, think about it. She's never even had a job that she was responsible to show up at every day, to be on time, to fulfill the work that she was there to do. She doesn't even know what that is like. And that is one of the most basic responsibilities that most people have. And now she has to take care of this baby that is completely dependent on her.
So
That'd be a mind fuck.
Well, it's terrifying is what it is. Yeah. And so the only person that she has to confide in at this point is her doula, who is not getting paid enough for these sessions now. Because
I thought this was a friend, and then I realized she was wearing a doula shirt.
No, yeah, she was the doula who visited before the
I
birth.
forgot about her.
Okay, great.
But she's back, and
Yes.
it is kind of a therapy session.
That's what it turns into. Where did the therapy go?
I don't
We
know.
started the series with in therapy with Gypsy and Ken, and a lot of the stuff that they were trying to get into, deeper conversations where they were really just rapid firing things out, and the therapist was like, this is the initial informational session. Let's keep it high level. Let's not get into that yet. Did we ever go back? Did we ever get into any of this? Did they just film the initial session and then none of the subsequent ones?
No, I don't think they've gone back together.
They just haven't. They went to therapy, so that fixed
they don't have
everything.
time. One session did it.
Now they're busy.
You know
busy.
what blows my mind that new mothers are not automatically given a therapist or a counselor and a certain number of sessions. Why is that not a thing we do in America?
There's a lot of things we don't do in America that would benefit a lot of people.
That's true.
That's true.
So she's struggling with the responsibility, but also feeling like she's kind of doing this on her own. Ken's gone back to work.
Well, she was telling the doula about the stress, the anxiety too that comes because she's usually up with the baby at night and she doesn't know, is she going to get 6 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, 2 hours of sleep? Is Aurora going to be gassy and temperamental? Is she going to be zonked out? Like, what's the deal? What are we going through? What are we going to face? And the anxiety now is just, she's getting like the Sunday scaries every day at dusk. Is what's happening.
It's like sundowning, but
Yeah.
not really.
It's terrible. It's like Nosferatu. And it's this presence now that you have to deal with.
She's also anxious about if she's doing everything correctly, which is piling on top of already being worried about what the day is going to hold.
I think I know where the source of that is. It's Ken.
You think it's Ken?
I think it's Ken's anxiety is,
You know, Ken seems
perfectioning.
really calm, though,
well, but like,
because Ken is getting a good 8 hours of sleep every night.
he's irritating her though, because there are the little jabs that he'll throw in there. Not really jabs, but it was just like, oh, make sure she doesn't fall asleep in the bed with you. And Gypsy's like, oh, I never do that. And he goes, you did it last night though. And she's like, oh, well, that was because she was on my chest. Okay. Well, it happened. So like, let's not do that, you know?
I didn't even hear him say that to her.
So yeah, that was when
That would be upsetting to be micromanaged by somebody who's
That's
not
it.
even there all day.
I think it's the micromanaging. And so like he's trying to hold a standard now for the baby where Gypsy's talking about this emotional disconnection that's happening between her and Ken, because I think Ken's kind of falling into dad mode where he's working and then doing stuff for the baby, but maybe neglecting checking in with Gypsy, seeing how Gypsy's doing, and maintaining that emotional regulation that happens between the two of them as part of a couple.
Yeah, but also I do think that Gypsy has a very high level of need when it comes to needing reassurance and attention from a partner. Although I do think a lot of this is normal and is something that many people experience. She also is somebody who is like anxiously attached to their partner.
And the scary part too, what she was talking about was how she's saying that she feels like her emotional needs are too much for Ken. So she isn't even fully expressing all of those emotional needs because she doesn't want to push Ken away or scare Ken away or feel like a burden to Ken as part of this.
All great topics to be addressed in couples therapy.
They did. She brought it up there originally.
Yeah, but
and
you
we
didn't solve it.
We did not address it. We did not seek any further assistance with that.
And now the dynamic of your relationship has shifted because you've had a baby and those things are still not addressed. That's not good.
See, when we're talking about that, the emotional need is part of it. That's just what Gypsy has. If she's not expressing the need, then that becomes an issue. It seems like she's not expressing it because she is afraid of expressing it. She's withholding that. She's suppressing those needs.
I'm not sure I agree with you that the anxiety is rooted in Ken. Maybe a little bit. There's probably a lot going on. She could be feeling postpartum anxiety, which is potentially part of her motherhood journey. But then also, she has a lot of pressure on her from what she feels like is the public.
Societally. Yeah.
That people are looking to judge her, to find any little thing she does wrong, to pick it apart. And so she's trying to get ahead of that and do everything correctly.
Yeah, well, it's like a perfection level now that she's placed on herself. So now there is this burden that she's carrying of, I cannot mess up, I cannot make mistakes. And that's impossible for anybody to carry on like that because she's human. She's going to make mistakes. She's going to have issues that arise. That's just naturally going to happen.
I don't think I would be living my life online if I was in this circumstance.
Yeah. Take a break from social media, at least for the first 6 months when you're sleeping for 2 hours a night and you're really not in a good place mentally. If you don't have yourself established and secured, and then you're being rattled to the core based on these questions that you see people asking online.
And you're learning how to have a newborn. And then there are people who they criticize everything she did, how she held the baby, that it doesn't look like she has a bond with the baby, how she has her positioned in certain things. That'd be a lot for anybody. Starting to give me anxiety, secondhand anxiety.
Where I lose my empathy for Gypsy is when she starts seeking her own solutions here in the form of texting Ryan.
Yeah, not good. Not a good move. Can't defend that.
Bad call. Big bad call.
It's pretty unfortunate that she has no friends, and that probably is what's playing into this to some extent, because becoming a mother is very isolating, especially if you don't have other people going through the same thing at the same time. Even someone who's been through becoming a mother who is your friend, if they're not at the same stage in life, it's kind of not the same. And I don't think she has anyone, because before this, she really had, Ken, Ryan, Christy, Rod, Mia, and the TikTok lady, Bree.
Bree, yep.
Those are all the friends that we have seen.
And the doula.
who is pulling her weight, man, in this friendship.
It's a heavy lift at this point, yeah.
Maybe we need a mother's group. She'd probably get kicked out if she tried to bring her baby to... the baby is so young.
Yeah,
I don't think that's why they would kick her out. I think it would be maybe because of the felony conviction.
Yeah.
But...
yeah, that's why she's not allowed to eat in restaurants anymore, too. We've made that abundantly clear based on this series.
I'm not sure the Mommy and Me class would welcome her with open arms. So the next best thing is Ryan.
Well, she was already struggling with that. Yeah, that was why she had called the private doula, was because she couldn't go to these classes with all these other people. So, I mean, that's all stuff that's really isolating. I think we hit the nail on the head when we were watching it. It was, she just needs to move to another country.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's coming down to.
You need to go somewhere where people aren't going to recognize you, and every day of your life, you don't need to worry that people are going to take pictures of you at the hospital, that they're going to see you in a restaurant and try to get the restaurant closed down.
Go someplace where they don't really give a shit about that sort of stuff.
I don't know where that is.
Scandinavia.
But I'm confident you can find it.
Yeah, probably. The texting Ryan, though, this is all Gypsy's fault. This is a big problem. This is trouble a-brewing. And you can already tell just from the way that she's casually bringing Ryan back up in conversations now with Rod and Christy, where they are both very leery to this, because it sounds like Gypsy's been having some struggles with Ken, but she hasn't been voicing those. Maybe they're not showing them on camera because they don't want this to appear like their relationship is faltering. But Rod and Christy know something's up. And then Gypsy starts randomly talking about how she's having conversations with Ryan, talking about meeting up to schedule a paternity test. Maybe we'll have lunch, maybe a little hand stuff, maybe a little mouth stuff, maybe a full on. I don't know.
She's trying to soft launch a friendship with Ryan. And then the way Rod's eyes bugged out of his head, he was looking at Christy, looking back. He was so concerned that she's bringing this up. So she kind of tweaked the conversation to, we were talking about paternity and the next steps of what we need to do with the attorneys, because I don't really know where that's at. But girl, that is not what you were texting him about, because Ryan brought the receipts.
Oh yeah, we get a treasure trove of their communications that Gypsy's been sending him. And he
many
was going
pictures
through,
of the baby,
yes,
but not just the baby.
not just, also the baby maker.
And the girls.
Well, yeah. She is sending Martha Stewart thirst traps to Ryan, where it's like, oops, didn't realize the camera was front facing. Oops.
I thought that was a picture of Aurora.
Whoops. She fell asleep on my chest and I just snapped this photo. I meant to send it to Ken, but I guess I sent it to you. Oops.
The motives here are unclear to Ryan. He's even starting to wonder, is she doing this because she wants to reignite something with me? Is it because she thinks that I am the father of the baby after all? Or could it possibly be because she wants me to cooperate with finishing the paternity test and paperwork that needs to be done so that then she can ditch me and never talk to me again?
Am I being manipulated right now? Red for yes, blue for no.
I'm going to say red for yes, but also she is so lonely. And who else is around looking to respond to her text in a moment's notice? Because Ken's at work. He can't answer his phone.
Yeah, this is like hearing Gypsy's description of her reasoning for this is because Ryan was at one point her best friend, her only friend when she was in prison.
Her only friend on the outside.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean like only friend in general. And so there is that connection point that they have. She needs new friends. You need more friends. Expand your friend group to not people who you used to have sex with, not people who you were married to and are now divorced from.
I would say that is solid advice.
Maybe just expand the friend group because it's great that you have Ryan. You're seeing him as a support system. I don't think that's an appropriate support system for you in this moment.
Or ever.
Well, I mean,
I think things with Ryan are done. It's time to move on.
Yeah, like maybe at some point, okay, sure. If you want to explore that, this is like a really tumultuous time to be getting involved with a friend who also happens to be an ex.
She is exactly like a teenager who has had a baby. These are teen mom moves.
Well, I mean, there is like a level of emotional infidelity in this too, of what she's... Does Ken know that this is the level of the conversations that are taking place where she's sending these types of photos and this is what's happening?
She's calling him on the phone.
I mean, they're talking about paternity stuff. I
Come
get
on.
it.
I think they talked about more than that.
I think they talk about more than that. So, I mean, if she is saying that that's all that these conversations were about, and then she's withholding information of other elements of their conversations, or you're not seeing the full extent of that, like through the text messages with the pictures that are being sent too, that's a little suspicious.
I would personally feel betrayed by her sending pictures of our baby to someone who also you don't really trust when you're trying to make sure that pictures of your baby don't get out. And also, you know, the whole element of who he is, that he believes still that he could possibly be the father despite a paternity test proving it otherwise. And the selfies. The selfies took it to another level to me, which tells me there was a different intention behind the texting. Because I don't send selfies to my friends, being like, look how hot I look just a few weeks after giving birth.
Just getting ready to go out for the evening.
Ken's at work.
Fit check.
Would he make that drive?
I think Ryan would drive to the ends of the earth for one more night with Gypsy.
Well, is that where we leave them this week? Because next time, she's getting all kinds of ultimatums because Ryan and Ken are starting to see what's going on here, and neither of them are having it for a moment longer.
Choose wisely, Gypsy. Tread softly, for you tread on my dreams.
Some quick announcements before we go. We are also covering Polyfamily, which is a new show to TLC. You have probably heard quite a bit about it on social media because there's been a lot coming out about the family, and it's only been a couple of episodes.
Didn't take long, but we're ready to watch the wheels fall off of this one.
You can also listen to this episode as well as everything else on Surviving Reality and our other podcast, Surviving Sister Wives, ad-free and early over on our Patreon, in addition to hundreds of episodes of bonus content. Thanks for listening. See you next time.